The story is colossal, man.
They say it takes many lifetimes to be born in this human realm.
I'm here to make sure that you're all treated well.
I've gone against our Buddhist principles. That Tibet and Dalai Lama will prevail.
Shenpenn, thank you for coming on the podcast, brother.
Thanks a lot, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Our mutual friend Brandon Cox told me about your story, and I was like, "That's a really cool story." And I was like, "You know what, man? I got to talk to this guy." It dawned on me after the fact.
Thank you, man. I'm known as the crazy Tibetan.
Listen, it's wonderful. Tell me about you and who you are. As you know, the podcast is about resilience, adaptation, and inspiration. Your story as a filmmaker and also as the theme of your movie is very much in that world. But please tell me your journey.
Thank you, Stephen. Firstly, I'm humbled and grateful to be here. We're like 12 hours time difference right now. But this is amazing, and yeah, I've had an incredible journey. I was born as a Tibetan refugee in the Himalayas, across the border from Tibet. My family, my parents and grandparents, escaped Tibet after the Chinese invasion, the illegal Chinese invasion. Even though I was living in the Himalayas, I was very far from the Western civilization and the Western culture, but because of the British influence in India and the Himalayas, because of the British invasion and all that. I grew up with a lot of Western rock music, and Western cinema. I was always the misfit in my community, in my family, uh, but I found refuge in music and art and poetry and especially cinema. So that's how my journey began. And then when I was 19, I moved to the U.S. as a political asylee. I came to the United States as a Tibetan refugee. And interestingly enough, my political asylum in the U.S. got rejected.
Wow.
And my port of entry was Los Angeles. And talk about calling, I always had this fantasy living in the Himalayas as a small kid. And this is like before, internet, before social media. But I remember watching Hollywood movies and in a theater and
Yeah.
VCR. Remember those VHS and
Oh
VCR
yeah.
days?
Oh yeah.
So I'd only seen America and seen Hollywood through videos and movies. So I finally got a chance to go to the US, and I had to apply for political asylum. And my port of entry was Los Angeles, LAX. And here I am, like this 19-year-old kid. I've never seen the world. Boom, like I'm in fucking LA. And then, I was in transition because I was flying to Chicago because my uncle was living in Chicago. So he was my only point of contact. So I was
Uh-huh.
going there. But I had like 3 hour of layover in LAX. And then I was just like completely overwhelmed. I'm like, flabbergasted. I'm like, fucking, where the hell am I? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And then I see a crowd, bro. Like I see a crowd, and I'm like, I go close, and I'm like, what is this? And I kid you not, my first within an hour of me stepping foot in the United States, I saw Robert Redford, dude. Like, and I had
At LAX.
yes, and I had recently watched Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, like at that time.
Yeah.
So I was
That's
like,
funny.
you know what? I don't know. I mean, it could be whatever story for people, but for me, it was like, I mean, imagine a kid from the Himalayas, from
Oh,
fucking
yeah,
mountains,
it's crazy.
right? You go to the US, it's like the furthest, from reality. And
Yeah.
then you're in LAX, you're already in disbelief. Like,
Right.
and then I saw Robert Redford and I couldn't believe my eyes. And people would like crowd and I just couldn't believe my eyes. I didn't have the confidence to go up to him or say anything. So that was the beginning of my journey. My political asylum in the US got rejected. And then I had nowhere else to go and I didn't want to be deported. So I went to Canada and I reapplied for my political asylum. And fortunately, I got my asylum accepted in Canada. And I started my life in Canada, in Toronto, as a Tibetan refugee. And then I eventually became a Canadian citizen. So my story is, it's been like, it's taken forever, bro. And then full circle, after I became a Canadian citizen, I go back to the US and I go back to LA to pursue filmmaking. And, I want to be an actor. But, at the time, we're talking about like 25 years ago, bro. You know, uh, there's almost nothing written for my face. Like nobody wrote for my looks. And I didn't want to do any like the stereotypical like hoo-ha, like, like kung
Yeah,
fu
yeah,
and
yeah.
martial arts shit. So yeah,
Wow.
and then to make ends meet, I had to work. I worked in a bank. I was relatively smart, so I did okay in my life. And I worked in a bank, and I worked as a waiter at Planet Hollywood. Remember Planet Hollywood?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
In Los
yeah.
Angeles,
No, in New York.
in New York. Okay, I know.
They
I've
had
been
it
there.
everywhere. Yeah. So eventually I couldn't get any work. As an actor, I wanted to learn filmmaking and I wanted to go to NYU Film School, but I couldn't afford at that time because I didn't have parents that could send me to school. I didn't have
Sure.
grants. I didn't have papers like where I could get like student loans. So I used to sit outside NYU, bro. Like no kidding. I used to sit outside NYU building. I used to work at a restaurant, wait tables. On my day offs, I used to sit outside NYU building and I used to watch all the kids go in and out, the students, and I used to talk to them. And I don't know what it is. I always had this kind of crazy, many a times it seemed delusional, but I had this immense self-belief that this is what I want to do. 2008, right before the economic meltdown, I quit my job as a banker and I said, you know what? Screw it. This is what I'm going to do. Like super romantic about life. Like I'm going to eat a slice of pizza a day, but I'm not going to sell my soul to the machine. I'm going to fucking do what I love. And that's how my filmmaking journey began. And it took a lot of courage. It took a lot of time. But then since 2008, I haven't looked back. But it
Wow.
hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy. So, I did small short films. I did documentary. I did, small time kind of feature films, indie stuff. And then this was an important story. The film is called Four Rivers, Six Ranges. Four Rivers and Six Ranges, so six mountains. The Untold Story of Tibet. So everybody knows about the Dalai Lama. Everybody knows about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Everybody knows about Buddhism. His Holiness is, a Nobel Peace Laureate. He's one of the most precious, most beautiful, most amazing, wise human being to ever walk this earth. Thank you. And nobody knew the story of how he escaped from Tibet.